when you hear the word dementia? Do you feel anxious?
Yep.
Uncomfortable?
Yep.
Ruben was living independently in Castlemaine until about a year ago, when he was no longer able to take care of himself. And he was moved into the aged care at Maldon Hospital. And as I started spending time with him there and seeing the other residents, I noticed that I was feeling not only the grief of seeing his deterioration, but I was also noticing that I felt anxious. Is this how I'm going to end up one day? I wonder if any of you share my concern. Feel free to put your hands up. And I'm not surprised, because more than 420,000 Australians have dementia, and 1.6 million are involved in caring for them. But today, I'm going to share with you how that fear was transformed into joy and love when I decided to change my focus from what was lost to what was retained. I met Ruben almost 30 years ago when he was living in a teepee in a close friend's garden. Now, being the out-and-out hippie that I was, of course I fell in love with that man who was so much older than me. I fell in love with the heart of a poet, the art of a writer, and the spirit of a Native American. And a couple of years later, Sahara was born. I was hoping she would be here today, but she's not. Sahara was born. And a couple of years after that, we got divorced. But of course, we stayed connected through Sahara for all the years. And some of you here might even know Ruben. He was quite the character in Castlemaine. After his driver's license was taken away, he took to walking with a vengeance, quite literally, because he was really angry about his license being taken away, as you can imagine. But he'd become a danger on the road. So he took to walking, taking quite a cracking pace up and down Barker Street, the main road in Castlemaine. Sometimes I would drive past and see him peering through shop windows and restaurants as he became more and more confused. He'd be wearing his signature poet's fedora hat, that is a thing, with the pinched crown and a narrow brim, and very well worn, just like his well-worn Blundstones. Both were brown, the hat, the Blundstones, and other than that, everything he ever wore in all the time I knew him was black or grey. He'd be perfect down here for the Gothic Festival. Do any of you know that Ruben? Anyone here? No. Yeah. And sometimes he'd be carrying a box, a cardboard box with his most precious possessions. Can anyone guess what was in that box? I gave you a clue earlier. Nobody? Don't even want to take a guess?
Photo of Sahara?
Hat, photos, Sahara, photos of Sahara.
Writing items.
Writing. In those, sometimes there was 2 boxes, were his writings that he had worked and reworked hundreds of times. You see, he was paranoid that someone was going to break into his little apartment in Castlemaine and steal his most precious possessions. So he took to carrying them around with him. Crazy in a town like Castlemaine, right? But Ruben was right. Slowly but surely, something was stealing his words. Dementia. His words, his most precious possessions. And when I was visiting him, I was trying to connect with him through words, through language. And as most of you know, with dementia, language, which is controlled mostly on the left side of the brain, is lost. Language on the left is lost. And he became more and more disengaged, disconnected. He was very sleepy and withdrawn when Sahara and I would visit him. It was partly due to the medication to keep him calm, but also, of course, the dementia. And we, during and after those visits, we would feel sad and heartbroken. And while it's really important and healthy to acknowledge grief, and I did grieve for a long time, what brought me out of it was a YouTube talk where I discovered that there is a part that is retained, and that is rhythm on the right side of the brain. So I'd always known, or for a long time I'd known, that music enlivens people with dementia. It lights up the left side of the brain. It gives them more functions and capacity. And I'd put headphones on him and given him the music that he loved from Cape Town, South Africa, to listen to. But I decided to take this to the next level. And the next time we go to visit Ruben, Sahara and I put the headphones on him with the African music, and then after a while we get him to stand up in a rhythmic way. Come, Ruben, we're going to stand up. 1, 2, 3, and up. And we get him up, we support him, and we start to move his arms and his legs and his shoulders in a rhythmic way. And he starts to make eye contact with us. He starts to initiate movement. He is using more words. We then take him outside to the churchyard across the road, and we support him as he is enjoying kicking the ball for my dog Bobby. And Sahara and I look at each other with big smiles. This visit has been so different from all the others. And what's more, a few days later, we get feedback from the staff of the aged care. Ruben loved the visit, and he kept talking about it afterwards. Wow, he remembered. And I remember a time back when he was still living in Castlemaine, when I was thinking about taking him to a communal dinner, but the host said to me, "Don't bother, he won't remember." And I'm sad that I didn't take him, because bringing someone joy in the moment is valuable in itself for everyone involved. And those moments create beautiful memories. And those memories are the antidote for anxiety. So I want to ask you, what are you going to focus on in your life? Is it what you've lost, the mistakes you've made? Or is it what you've gained and retained? In the words of a man living with dementia, Tim Brennan, we may have forgotten your name, but we remember love.
Great story.